Money Radio, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to get together with Laura Bramnick from TalkRealEstateAZ.com. TalkRealEstateAZ.com. Laura is an attorney specializing in real estate. She's also a real estate agent, and she's also a consumer advocate who works to make sure that residential and commercial real estate transactions go off without a hitch. Land transactions as well. Laura holds an active Arizona real estate license. She's been a real estate investor, a certified instructor with the Arizona Department of Real Estate, licensed through the State Bar of Arizona, and that's a real good combination, an attorney and a real estate agent. And if you'd like to find out more, 480-624-2705, 480-624-2705. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Sinclair.
How have you been?
I've been great. How about you?
Good. Good to see you. We've talked about cure periods in the past,
Yes.
and some folks may not really understand what that means. Essentially, it's a grace period to make things right.
Yes, correct. I don't think people realize sometimes that there's more time allowed in the real estate contract than they think there is. And when somebody is selling, let's say, and waiting for their money from the sale of their house to buy another house, they are going by that date, the date that says close of escrow date.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of problems that can occur when somebody needs the extra time.
And yet, in real estate contracts, it's written in that there could be something that goes wrong, and here's what to do if something goes wrong.
Yes.
Real estate contracts are so complicated that we just get used to the idea it may not go smoothly.
And it's interesting because there are some buyers and sellers that they look to the contract and they look to the wording and they rely on that. And there are others that are like, okay, so I need a couple more days. It's not really my fault. You know, my lender didn't get my documents there, or it took me a little longer to do the home inspection, you know, or my broker didn't transfer my money from my stock account. And that's not how the contract works.
But a lot of people think it's a pretty loose situation.
Yeah, and I think it's important when you represent a client to establish early on that the dates are fixed. And so everybody gets on board with that notion. And you know that that's going to be the climate of the transaction.
So the general boilerplate contract can be a bit loose in its interpretation, and you can tighten it up.
Yes, and that's why when I represent somebody, I really interview them pretty carefully. And you want to say, okay, let's talk about what's really important to you in this transaction, because you can tighten it up from the get-go. First of all, you can eliminate the cure period. You can negotiate terms of the contract where you either tighten it up, reduce it, eliminate it. And so you want to know where it's important that the dates are fixed and that there's going to be repercussions if they're violated.
In other words, you would like to anticipate where a breach of contract might occur, or typically can occur in a looser setting.
Yes.
And you want to nip it in the bud.
Yeah, you can also ask for assurances as the contract progresses, so that if the buyer says, okay, I did the inspection, but I need to have further inspections done on what my initial inspector found, can you give me more time? Yes, I can give you more time if you do X, Y, and Z. So that it's an ongoing negotiation, although you can definitely enforce the original contract. You don't have to negotiate, but you have to determine what your rights and liabilities are. What damages it actually is it going to cost you if you extend the time? What damages it is going to cost you, the seller, let's say, if you don't give the buyer more time? You know,
Okay.
how are you going to benefit, and how is it going to be detrimental?
So there could actually be monetary damages involved in a breach.
Yeah, and the contract says that as a seller, you can use the earnest money, you can keep the earnest money as compensation for breach, but that you don't have to. And so the amount of earnest money becomes an issue. I think many people are too cavalier about it. You know, okay, I'll put in a couple $1,000s,
Yeah.
and that'll be it. But you wanna look at it a little more closely in terms of if the buyer walks away but has to lose their earnest money, how much am I really gonna need to make me whole? Because I've kept the property off the market and done some other, you know, maybe I've signed a contract to buy a house and now I have to ask them for more time.
Right. So for the buyer, it's important because they are putting up earnest money.
Yes.
They could be at risk.
Yeah, for a buyer, the cure period's usually a benefit. And not always, but usually it can be a benefit. Certainly for a cash buyer, usually you don't need more time.
Mhm.
But, and sometimes for a seller it can be a benefit, because let's say a seller has signed a contract to buy another property, and that property gets delayed in some way. Now the seller, so it's not totally one-sided, but you want to ask your seller, are you buying a new build, you know, where dates are a little more flexible?
Right.
Are you buying a resale?
What's the schedule?
Is the home you're buying vacant, or is it occupied?
We'll dig into how this affects buyers and sellers maybe next week.
Yeah, that'd be great. I agree.
If you're not familiar with the cure period, and if you're not sure what you're signing, and if you're not sure how to make this work to your advantage in a contract, you need the help of Laura Bramnick at talkrealestateaz.com. Laura knows this. She knows how a breach of contract works, where it is likely to occur, and how to make sure that it works to your advantage. 480-624-2705. 480-624-2705. talkrealestateaz.com. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you, Sinclair.